Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. Today we're talking about big news for DC Comics, massive DC Comics digital push. They're doing a massive push with their direct-to-consumer platform. They've been doing this direct-to-consumer platform since before the merger, but now they're introducing DC Infinite Ultra. And the big news on this is that they are going to have comics available to their digital direct-to-consumer app 30 days after the comics are in print. They used to be a year that you'd have to wait, then it was 6 months, and now it's been knocked down to 30 days. Now, what this does do for us as well is it lets us know for sure that I'm probably right, that they're not licensing out their comics to some other companies to mess around with their characters. I never thought it made sense to do that. They may not be making money publishing the comic books, but obviously the characters are incredibly important to them. And they may decide that they need to produce a certain number of Batman comics, a certain number of Wonder Woman comics. They want to explore doing new things with their characters. You need your own company to do that. You can't license it out. So I did a video on this, obviously. And that's part of my playlist. I've done like 46 videos on the subject so far on Warner Brothers Discovery and a variety of what they're doing with the changes of Warner Brothers. But look, this has been a debate. Hopefully the debate's over now. No, they're not going to license out the comics so that they can be investing in and operating a retail platform to market comic books, right? Why would they be pushing to sell comics and also annoying comics retailers? They've made all their comics returnable through the year because of this DC Universe Infinite Ultra initiative they're doing, the direct-to-consumer digital app, because the comic book stores are buying these on a non-returnable basis normally, their comics, trade paperbacks, whatever they're publishing. And this affects comic book stores because they are directly competing with comic book stores when they're saying, hey, you can just buy the comic directly from us through an app. It's not on paper, but if you want to just read it, you can get it directly through Warner Brothers Discovery through the DC Comics app. So they're going to have to make retailers whole. It's not big numbers for them. But again, though, it's just another example that, do you think that they're into the idea of the retail comics distribution business, but they don't really want to publish their own characters? No, that obviously doesn't make any sense. Okay, Comixology exists. That's fine. You don't see DC reaching out to other comic book publishers and trying to sell other people's titles on their platform. They're concerned with their characters, their stories, their platform, and really, really importantly, their digital library. Because obviously they've got decades and decades and decades of content as part of their intellectual property library. They want that content available and alive. They want people to be able to pay for it. They want people to get more interested in it. They want people to spend more time on that app. It's very similar to what they're doing with the HBO Max streaming platform. They want people invested in and spending time on that streaming service. They want that regular recurring revenue of a subscription. And there's nothing much more that these guys can do except to make an official statement to really signal that, yeah, they're in the comics business. It may not be their biggest business. It may not even be a profitable business. But they're not getting out of the comics business. If you know IDW, for example, there's some rich guy from a telecommunications company that bought IDW a few years back. He made it public. I don't even know if it's still a public company right now. It really wasn't doing very well. But he wanted to own a comic book company. He has no special ability that you can't hire a comic book publisher or a comic book editor to put comics together and publish. So why would they want to bother with this business? Because publishing the characters is what keeps the characters alive. But they are bothering with it, and it's initiative. This is a serious initiative, rather. They're not just taking it over and doing nothing with it. They've obviously had some strategic meetings, not necessarily at the highest of high levels, the CEO of Warner Brothers, but enough people who are in their business development team to decide, like, yeah, we want to distribute comics because we want to distribute our comics and we want to get this direct-to-consumer relationship going. The thing that happens with a direct-to-consumer relationship for a technology company like Warner Brothers is they get to see how much time did you spend? Did you read the whole comic? Did you go back and read it more than once? What are you really interested in? Which characters are you interested in? If you're interested in Batman, do you tend to also be interested in Flash? Are you interested in only Batman and Superman? They have all of this information coming to them, which tells them about consumer interactions, true consumer actual interest in their intellectual property. So that's why they've decided to do this, obviously. It makes all the sense in the world. And, public announcements, you can't argue with public announcements. It's obviously happening. Okay, let's get into this first article. Before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. Really appreciate it. The channel is growing, and you guys have been amazing with that. Thank you so much. DC Universe Infinite Ultra will now have comics 30 days after print. Okay, that is a big deal. Much like when they release films, they release TV shows, there are windows, they call it windowing, where they offer it to theatrical and then they offer it to streaming. These guys are very big believers, Warner Bros. Discovery, in the windows. They're not like Netflix. They're not just taking everything and dumping it immediately available and only available through the streaming service. And I really respect that. I think it makes a hell of a lot of sense. There's a lot of different places they can sell things, a lot of different ways they can sell things. I think that it's also really interesting to see, I keep mentioning, I don't see why they're producing these periodicals anymore, why they need a 32-page periodical comic book when everything really is not geared towards magazine distribution. Yes, there are comic book stores, which really, in this case, became an afterthought. They made all these comics returnable because of the DC Universe Infinite Ultra announcement. That's quite a mouthful. So it was a second consideration. I mean, they really didn't even let comic shop owners know that this was coming. We'll try to cover that a little bit if we still have time. But they obviously still want to make comics, and they obviously still value direct-to-consumer a lot. DC Universe Infinite is an online streaming service that primarily distributes past issues of DC published comics digitally to PCs, tablets, and phones. When it was relaunched, replacing the previous DC Universe app, DC Universe Infinite would only offer newly published DC Comics titles 1 year after publication in print, later shortened to 6 months. It also offers early access to DC Comics digital first titles, exclusive comics created for the service, and access to a selection of DC's back catalog. It currently is available in the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, with Brazil and Mexico coming soon. It looks like it's about to offer another option. According to an app update, it's called DC Universe Infinite Ultra, and it will allow subscribers to get their all-you-can-eat fix of DC Comics offerings not 6 months after print publication, but 1 month. And the general price for those people with standard 6-month delays will be coming down. It's affecting the iOS platform first, so here's the price platform, for the UK. So this is the price platform, no offense to the UK, but here's what they've got for American audiences. Now, these are multiple versions and formats in multiple countries. A monthly typical membership is $7.99 a year. You get access to everything on the platform, which would give you, all the new DC comics. I mean, if they're going to sell all the new DC comics digitally for $7.99 a month, that's not a big price. DC Universe membership for 1 year, $74.99. Now, the Ultra promo for 1 year, I mean, this gets complicated, but let's put it this way. Between $75 and $100 a year, they're happy to have you as a subscriber and to have you having access to all their fancy schmancy stuff. So is this the end of print comics? It's going to ultimately, it makes no sense just as a publisher. It makes no sense to produce periodicals. This is not the 1940s. This is not the 1970s or even the 1990s anymore. Magazines, returnable sales of comics is, what magazines were all about. The way you could get people to see your entertainment, to see your product, was you had to take a risk as a publisher and pay for an item to essentially be on a newsstand. And then if it didn't sell, you had to take the loss. Well, now they have direct-to-consumer subscriptions. So now they can get however many subscribers. I don't know how many subscribers they have. I know they have enough subscribers that they're producing original content. I know they have enough that they're taking this initiative seriously. They're spending time on this and money. And when I mean time, it's not like David Zaslav is spending the weekend doing strategy sessions about DC Infinite Ultra. I think if he did, they'd have a better name for it. But someone over there who's important in business development at DC or Warner Brothers is meeting and having conversations. They're investing resources. The most valuable thing is management time. They're paying attention to doing this. So they're looking at this as a solution to be direct to consumer, to be able to capture whatever it's going to be, roughly $8 a month from people, and have that cover the costs of the production of the comics. Will it be profitable? It's all about adding another line of distribution. I don't think it's possible that they're going to do digital only and that's all they're going to produce. But I think it's very possible they could do digital only. And as I keep saying, why would they not do a 48-page graphic novel, a 100-page graphic novel of original material? They don't need these periodical formats. They're harder to keep track of. They get damaged more easily. They can be sold physically in less places. The only reason to do that is if they actually had enough audience that they'd be able to, do essentially the version of a periodical direct to consumer through this digital platform where there was no distribution cost. It was just their own platform. Maybe they do it as an additional in-app purchase, something like that. But it's a big enough ecosystem that it's clear they want to publish and create their own comic books. They are going to do direct to consumer. They consider that to be important, or they wouldn't be wasting time on the initiative. And they're going to expand it. And, digital comics have become a bigger and a bigger thing. There's nothing like having paper comics, real physical imprint comics. It's great. I love it. I'll always produce paper. But a lot of people are doing business with digitals. A friend of mine who does some crowdfunding on Kickstarter, and he was telling me his last project, they did 50% digital. And it wasn't a gigantic project, but 50% digital is like, I don't think DC is doing 50% digital, but again, who knows what goes on with this digital platform? Who knows? All they're looking to do is for someone to see the platform and for someone to say, hey, Mom, can I sign up for this? Like that. With HBO Max, they have 92 million subscribers. They're going to have, 130 million in a couple of years. So will they utilize this platform, this digital platform? Will they mix this with HBO Max? Maybe if you watch some of the DC content on HBO Max, will they then give you a special offer, a free subscription for 6 months to Infinite Ultra in the hopes of converting, 5 million people or 50 million people that watch Wonder Woman content and get them to sign up. They don't have to read it. Just sign up for it. We all sign up for subscription services. So this really gives them something very viable to be able to know that they have a future, and not just a future, but a scalable future, one that they can put additional resources into marketing. Maybe we'll see mainstream marketing for this. They can take this platform and test out advertising it on their channels. They have an unlimited number, an absurd number. I always say, I'm just blown away. They have 10 to 12 channels, cable channels, they call them linear channels, in 230 plus countries throughout the world. It's a lot of countries. some of that time goes unsold, some of that marketing time. So will they promote this on some of those channels and see if they get some results? Maybe it works in Spain, but it doesn't work so well in Montenegro or, wherever else that they offer this. They're all over the world. So for them, they have another digital product that's easy for them to sell, and they will get subscribers. They have subscribers now. Paper is great, but the physical limitations of distributing paper books is severe. There are all sorts of things you have to go through which don't exist for direct-to-consumer. And another thing about direct-to-consumer is, if the technology existed to be direct-to-consumer 100 years ago, when we first started having movie theaters, we would have had it. We wouldn't have had as many movie theaters because the only reason to have distribution, the only reason to have middlemen involved is because the technology doesn't serve it. There's no physical way to be able to get your content to someone who could pay for it and collect the incremental bits and pieces of money to be able to complete the transaction. But technology allows that now. So we're going to have direct to consumer from publishers, creators, manufacturers forever now. And it's just going to be more and more intense. That doesn't mean that other markets don't make sense. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't sell. A friend of mine, Jim Salicrup, actually sold his company, Paper Cuts. They were like the #1 kids graphic novel publisher, one of the earliest ones. So long story short, he and I were talking, and let's just, without private conversation details or whatever, but some of their licensed comics would get picked up by places like Costco, Walmart, and not like Walmart ripping you off, Costco ripping you off. They would place an order, for a special edition of one of their licensed titles. If you have access to that type of physical distribution, if you're the licensor of the Smurfs, or licensee of the Smurfs rather, and they say, listen, the Smurf movie's coming out, we'd like to do, a 200-page book or whatever it is, and we want this price for it, and we'll buy 1 million or 200,000 of them. Of course you do a deal like that. Why wouldn't you? But that's physical distribution. When it comes to direct to consumer, it's person by person, but it adds up to a lot of money when you get a lot of subscribers. So that's why we're seeing DC make this kind of push. They're a content company. They're an global intellectual property company. That's how Zaslav describes Warner Brothers Discovery. So you're not going to see them not have interest in direct-to-consumer platforms unless they completely flat out don't work. If they didn't work at all, if there wasn't potential, if it just wasn't viable, it wouldn't exist. So with respect to what happened with comic book stores buy comics on a non-returnable basis. Thank God that they do. That's why we still have a comic book industry. Crowdfunding is taking off. There would not be crowdfunding if it wasn't for the tens of thousands over the years of these guys who really, really, really care about comic books, who would put their own collections out and would just open comic stores. Very few of them ever did well financially. A few did. But for the most part, they didn't. They just cared about comic books, and they kept it alive in the direct market system. So stores have been buying comic books on a non-returnable basis from publishers and from the comic book distributors for decades now, ever since it started in the 70s, but it got bigger in the 1980s. If it wasn't for these stores, there wouldn't have been a vibrant independent publishing industry, which is how I got involved to publish my first comic when I was a kid, 15 years old. That said, now things have moved on. But comic book shop owners, unfortunately, when it comes to this is something that, I hate to see, but they really don't care that much about comic book shop owners. They should care about comic shop owners, and there should have been a way to maybe communicate with them, but I guess they're just moving fast and loose, and they know the numbers, and they've looked at the numbers, and they're going to be in the comics or graphic novel publishing business with their intellectual property. There's no doubt about that. They've made that decision. Whether they're going to concentrate on periodicals is another question, and whether they'll continue to sell paper products to comic book stores, but it's a small piece of their business. It's not something, obviously, that they're that focused on. Otherwise, they wouldn't make this whole announcement and do all of this without consideration for the comic book stores. This was reported by Bleeding Cool. They caught this news early. They're very good at rumors and little inside things going on. Some of the stuff doesn't pan out, but a lot of it does. And as they say here in their article, they're the first ones to announce. They were the first ones to announce that they were doing this 1 month subscription, the 1 month delay from the print comic books. And 10 minutes later, after the article came out, there was rushing around for DC to put out word of the announcement, and also to let comic shop owners know they would accept the comics returnable, with the premise that if comic fans decided not to buy DC's comics because they could get them digitally instead of physically, which is probably not going to happen anyway, they'll make the comics returnable. Well, to an extent, that helps the shop owners. Unfortunately, not all that much. Hopefully, we'll get some good leadership at DC Comics. I think there's a good chance we will. I don't exactly know what their plans are. I don't even approximately know what their plans are, except that everything that they do at the Zaslav team has been to make sure that they honor the brands of the stuff they're publishing. That's why they canceled Batgirl. And to have a hope at the things making sense and being profitable. They will not spend money on projects that don't look like they can pan out unless they absolutely must. All right. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always like to see your comments. Please do subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. And I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.